All right, welcome back. I'm Fred Yaki. I'm the host of this wonderful podcast, the Barbershop Mentoring Initiative. We are here live in our headquarters. I'm excited that we have a unique guest with us today that I'm sure will offer a ton of wisdom and knowledge for not only you all, but it's something that I believe we're going to talk about today you might want to save. But as always, I like to open up with a monologue, something that I've been thinking about. And it's kind of interesting to our conversations that we had coming in to today, Milt. I was always told, I will never forget, I was with a group of young people down in the camp, and I read something that really spoke. And the author was anonymous. And it said, children are awesome impersonators. It's up to the adults to give them something great to impersonate. And I say that because we often deal with the youth and the challenges that we have in today, and it's so easy to criticize them, so easy to say that they're wrong, so easy to say, why aren't they in here? But I believe children look to adults to model their lives after. And I want to challenge those that are watching. You don't have to be an educator, you don't have to be a youth professional to be a great role model for someone. And today I'm honored to have in our studio room, podcast room, a person I consider a mentor myself. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to know and introduce to you Milt Thompson.
Thank you, Fred. What a pleasure to be here with you. You've done a nice job here in your shop, and I've been following you on social media a little bit, and I'm certain that people will, it'll catch on, and people will take advantage of your podcast.
Well, thank you. You know, I don't like to tell people's story. I don't like to tell people about who you are and all that you've done. I often say that with our technology, you can Google, and you can find out things.
Right.
But I'm gonna have you say a few things for those who don't know you. Who is Milt Thompson?
Wow, that's a good thing. Oftentimes, people are a confluence of the things that they've done or accomplished or have figured out. I don't like to think that that's Milt Thompson. As you say, you can Google those things.
Yeah.
And been engaged in the practice of law for more than 40 years. Have been engaged in business for all those years and been involved in civics for all those years, and like to think that I've been involved in creating opportunities for others. That's generally what it has been. So if you were to take that cut wood and pieces of glass that are called awards, right?
I like that.
They're nothing close to what I'm seeking, and that is the ultimate reward, and that's from my Savior. And so that's more what Milt Thompson is, instead of a combination of all the things that you can look up on Google and say, I think this man is out of his mind for doing all this stuff. Yeah. And you know, it's usually mostly just stuff, unless it's something that you believe adds some value to your community and to other people's lives.
Yes, sir. So
that would be, in a nutshell, how I would describe Milt Thompson. Now, I suspect you'll get different descriptions from other people, but I just cannot be guided by what other people think.
That's powerful, and that's also releasing, I'm sure, of a lot of who you are and the essence of why you do what you do.
Right.
I had a question for you. You know, we often talk about things here. This room is dedicated to mentorship, and I'm always curious to know the story of why people do what they do. What's your story and what's your why?
Well, part of it, Frederick, is what you just said. Young people are going to be looking at you. Now, what are they going to look at you doing? I mean, a role model, you can role model things that aren't so good sometimes.
Absolutely.
The thing is that they will be looking.
Yes, sir.
And they will be modeling.
Yeah.
Now, if they're going to model you, is it something that you would emulate? Or is it something that you would leave alone? So you always have to be wary of that. And I'm oftentimes circumspect about that, just talking about oneself. Because then all of a sudden, so, well, what's that got to do with me? Is he want me to do everything that he's tried to do? I don't even think I could explain to you what I've tried to do and how I've done it. without getting into my spiritual whys.
Yeah.
Now, my human whys are a lot of it. Some people might say it's in spite of. A lot of people, and that's why I have to be real careful about saying this. Well, you've achieved so much. So, well, I mean, I'm a little bit insecure and saying, well, who cares?
Yeah.
Now, who's paying attention? Now, my mom and my dad. I lost my mom when I was 17 years old, and so she was really kind of my guiding light. My dad worked all the time. He ran a business.
Yeah.
Business on the southeast side of town, and it was a place where it is was just a few miles away from the Ku Klux Klan head dragon of the world, and ran a honest and fair business until people would come into his shop and say, "Where the boss? Where the boss at?" My dad would say, "The boss is in Florida." Kind of denying, and then how do I get that step? So you get that step. He said, "Who do I write the check to?" I said, "No, I don't know what a check is. Maybe you can just put some cash down there if you want some cash, that, and if you can handle that step and take it out of here, you won't have to pay me to bring it to you. But if you pay me that in addition to that, we'll bring the step to you and we'll actually put it in its place." So I'm 10, 11 years old, already learning to work. People say, "You worked out, right?" Yeah, I haven't seen a piece of concrete bigger than my finger. It wasn't heavy, so I know that I was working out. But 10, 11 years old, and watch your own father deny.
That's heavy.
That he even owns the business. And my dad would always say, "Don't ever let them cause you to deny your accomplishments." Now, that borderlines in my mind on unnecessary idolatry.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Stand there and say, "Hey, yes, I've done that, and I've done that, and I'm going to do it 10 times more, and in spite of you, no matter what I'm going to do." A lot of it comes to insecurity because I felt like perhaps they are also denying me of my place at the table. How many awards do I need in order to be able to dispel the idea that I have value?
Yeah.
So how do I determine my value is largely an outgrowth of watching someone who's achieved a great deal. If I had like just an nth of the acumen that my dad had as a brilliant businessman. This was a man in 1963 in Ebony magazine, as a minority contractor and building his own way here in Indianapolis. That's
huge.
It was huge.
That's like going viral.
It was like huge. So I was like, well, why is he not able to say in his own business, "This is our business"? Now, a few years later, folks would come in and try to disrespect him, and he would say, "I don't have to say you that step. I'm the boss, he's not in Florida. And if you want the step, you at least treat me as if you want that step."
Yeah.
I'm not saying you got to treat me with dignity, but you have to treat me as if you want that step. This is a commercial transaction.
Absolutely.
One of the public television stations did a series. I think it was Channel 20 did the series on the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, 90s about how things kind of were in Indy. Well, they asked me, and I think my good friend Charles Blair, to be the spokespersons on the group of the 60s. And we were kind of like the men in between, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, Milt, your dad owned a business. Why didn't they riot like everybody else were rioting and when they had all these things and changed in the 60s? And I said, well, my dad saw a pecuniary interest and didn't see any reason why he should tear things down. He needed to build things up. So the only people my dad hired were people who were unhireable anyplace else.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
They may have had a criminal record, or they may have had some other disenfranchising activity in their lives. And they became 40-year loyal to unbelievable employees. They became shop foremen. They became, he taught them in his own cottage industry how it is we go there. Then make it innovative. And then my dad had several patents that he had because he could do anything. He was on the Delta Queen back in the Navy and as a carpenter. And he could weld, he could carpet, he could do all kinds of things in a very, very segregated Navy, just like it was and everything else like that. And my dad was just into spite of sometimes. And sometimes they said, well, why is your dad angry? I said, well, I mean, anger is one thing. How do you manifest an opportunity from none? My dad tried to take the economic
in spite of all that was going on.
Exactly.
Your dad thrived.
Yes.
What did that give you? What did that, growing up and having a parent, losing your mom at a young age, and seeing your father that's so strong, that's still overcoming things without an excuse,
right?
But definitely justifiable of why you couldn't. What does that do to a young Milt Thompson as you are you preparing to launch out into your own world?
Well, it ultimately followed me. Okay, all the way and up and through, and I tell this story often. All the way and through, it just caused me to try to be better, and not just bitter about the things just because they're happenstance. I was an All-American baseball player, and I had opportunities to do that. And North Central up here, I've been on their Wall of Fame and with other notable people. But when I was leaving law school, I had been the national moot court champ, and I was president of the Student Bar Association, already taking on leadership roles, and was in the upper third of my class, and we're getting invitations to come to the big law firms in Chicago and New York and go to Wall Street. They're calling, and I said, well, no, my dad's business here in town, so I'll just apply to the 3 biggest law firms here in the community. And I'm not thinking about it. This is 1979, right? It's not like prehistoric days, you wouldn't think. And so I get an 11-page rejection letter and 2 other rejection letters from the other 2 firms. And I said, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, I was like the highest rated person, if you just look at Q, coming out of law school, that, I mean, you're gonna have a good lawyer here, on your hands. And they were making, first-year associates were making, upwards of $40,000 a year, just walking in, and 779. I said, man, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
I can live with that. And I said, but why am I getting rejected? Well, it turns out that all 3 of those big law firms, it's fortunately changed these days, but then they had no black partners. They had no black associates. They had no black paralegals. They had no black secretaries. And even the high school students who took the paperwork from the courtroom over back to the office, none of them were of color.
Wow.
1979.
That's 79.
1979.
We're talking about 39.
And we're talking about 79.
Indianapolis.
Right. So I was relegated to go into the Marion County Prosecutor's Office because I could get a job, one. And instead of making $40,000 a year, I was making $13,500 a year and trying the heaviest duty cases around. And as soon as I passed the bar exam, it went up to $18,000. Well, if you take the present value of money and take that over a 5-year period of time where you're getting advances, that's more than $500,000 I'll never see, no matter what else I do in my career. And they're always wondering why don't they just pull themselves up with their bootstraps? Well, when you start in a hole, that takes a bootstrap that's a lot bigger and heavier than anything that we know. If you're starting behind, how do you ever catch up? You're caught up from housing, you're caught up from being able to have a family legacy, to leave family with money. And they're saying, well, why don't they do something to so the story followed me. Followed me.
That's interesting you said that it followed you. You didn't say it led you, it drove you. It followed you.
Yes.
So if that story followed you, what do you attribute in your years that have led you, that has kept you on that guiding path?
To be better and not bitter.
Hold on, say to be better and not bitter.
Yes. It's easy to be bitter when you're disrespected.
It's so easy.
And why I have to carry around this little insecurity.
Yeah.
Why I have to be careful explaining it. To my peeps. Well, it's not that I'm not capable. It's just that I'm not being recognized as capable or on the same page.
Yeah.
Frederick, I've been on publicly traded boards of directors of companies on proxy statements. Okay, and sometime in the room, and it looks like they don't even know that I'm there. Or I've been in some of the nonprofit organizations that I've led and become chairman of the board of. Sometimes I don't know that I'd actually around a peer. I feel like maybe I haven't arrived yet.
Yep.
I still have to continue to strive and achieve. My next birthday, I'll be 70 years old. Can you believe that? No, I look too about that.
Man, you look smooth.
Maybe we'll have to come to your barbershop and keep me going, right?
Yeah, keep it on the side, yeah.
You can't lose sight of the fact that you still have something in the tank. People say, well, why do you keep doing this? I says, well, because I'm driven that way.
Yeah.
And then the whole service part was my mother. She was superintendent of the Sunday school, and if I didn't do anything else, I'm going to Sunday school. So if breakfast is on the table on a Sunday morning, and I'm not getting up and I'm not eating it, it's off that table, and we are off. And my dad would enforce it. No, you get in that car and you're going to church. So. And the whole idea was about how much you give and what is your faith and how much is it important that others receive any kind of opportunity that you have. Founded the Play Ball Indiana, which is RBI of Indiana, reviving baseball in the inner cities. Yeah. Founded that program because I got challenged by a judge back when I was a prosecutor. And, and I'm prosecuting young guys who are 16, 17, 18 years old and treating them as an adult because they stole a car. So, and then I go to this judge afterwards and he throws down a Sports Illustrated with Arthur Ashe on the front of it. He says, well, he started this junior tennis program, Arthur Ashe did, the NJTL program. He says, well, why don't you do something with baseball? I'm making $18,000 a year, and me? Why don't somebody else do it? Right. No. So he said, no. I said, I'd rather them steal bases than cars. So got another businessman. We were around town, put together a little league, had no money, had no commitment of teams, ended up raising money and raising teams. Go to Indianapolis Indians. Yeah. It's ironic I'm on their board of directors these days, but back then, can you give $10,000 to our little organization? They go, no, you don't even have your 501c3 paper. And I'm a young lawyer, and I'm going, I wagged out of the athletic club that day. And until me and my partner said, you know what, we're going to get our application done. And he said, oh, it'll take these guys, 2-3 years before they get their nonprofit status. I said, man, you work at a big law firm, don't you? One of those ones that rejected me. Said that to myself, of course. So we take our application down to Cincinnati, and 6 weeks later, we got our certificate. That's amazing. So I said, no wonder you charge so much at that big law firm. I got down in 6 weeks. Would it take you 2 years to do? Yeah. I didn't say that. I didn't say it out loud. I said that to myself too, right? But
I also hear you saying that even in your story, you mentioned you're an athlete. There has to be a level of being competitive where you believe in yourself, where you challenge yourself. I think it was on Michael Jordan's documentary, where he looked at one of the coaches because the coach had a suit and stuff on, and Jordan said to himself, I don't like him because he thinks he's better than me. So I'm gonna go out and give it to this player. And that coach is like, I didn't even do nothing. But something in him, of his things, that also drove him and drive. Let me ask you a different question. Mm-hmm. What are you, in the age and the wisdom that you're in, what gives you the most hope with the society and the climate that we're in now? And I know a lot of people talk about the down, but I'm gonna switch it. What gives you the most inspiration and hope with the current situations of now?
Well, sometimes, your past is the best prologue and predictor of what comes forward. And oftentimes people say, well, isn't it better than when it used to be? I said, well, it depends on what better is and for whom and where. Not necessarily better all the time. It continues to follow me. One last illustration about one that followed me. my dad knew that I was probably the best quarterback easily in the city, maybe in the state. And as I was leaving West Lane Junior High School and going on to North Central High School, my dad said, hey, Milt, I think I'm going to send you to Barbershop. I said, why would I go to Barbershop? North Central's the biggest school in the state. He says, well, everybody, we were undefeated in junior high. We beat all the other ones, and I was the quarterback, and I was the leader. And he goes, yeah, I understand, but I'm not sure that you'll ever be able to play quarterback at North Central. I said, why? Dad, I'm the best quarterback. You know it. Why would I think that I couldn't be that? And he says, well, anyway. Long story short, I'm on the front page Indianapolis Star, having to left the team in my senior year because I played on the baseball team and the summer league team. We got a chance to go on to the Nationals. And the backup quarterback was a backup catcher on the team. And the first 3 days of practice in football crossed with our baseball team of the same group going to the Nationals. So I'm a starter. So I'm going to go to the Nationals and think that people in your school would be happy about it. Well, when I get back, they had 3 unpadded practices. And the coach at the time, I don't need to name names, they're irrelevant, but saying like, well, you're not the kind of leader that we need. What? I'm demonstrating by example with one of our teams that I can make it to big time levels. So, me and my dad talked over, said, no, you've got scholarship offers in music, and you've got scholarship offers and everything else, academics, and says you really don't need it, and you don't need that agony. I said, fine. So I walked off the team. Well, there were like 23 blacks on that team.
Football team. This is 72. This is way before
North Central 72.
North Central 72. And they played all right because they were just big and were all right. But of that number of blacks on the team, every one of them walked off except for one whose dad was a shop teacher at the school, and he ultimately became the vice principal at Carmel High School. But and the other guy who was our top running back, one of the top running backs in the state. So he stays with the team until the first game, and he leaves. So they're asking me, how did I influence people to not stay on the team? I said, I didn't have anything to do with what their decisions. Their parents said, if Milt Thompson's not our quarterback, you're not playing either. So you said it follows me.
Yeah.
And so what? And so I thrust into being a leader. Oftentimes, leadership is not earned.
That's right.
Oftentimes, you're in positions where it is the times deal with it. So these times now, like you just asked the question, I choose to look at there being opportunities to do good, opportunities to do well, and you can do both.
Yeah.
But you have to dedicate yourself to it. You have to have your faith and your values in the right place, and you have to work really hard, and you have to resist those that resist the thought that you might be a leader.
That's good. You said a lot.
You have to resist it.
This is gonna be a good one. This is gonna be great. Let me ask you a question. Mentorship.
Yes, sir.
For my young minds and maybe those that are older, place of business, and they may be frustrated with how things are going.
Right.
What advice would you give in the sake of mentorship? Who was your mentor, and what is mentorship? What advice can you give to others to mentor?
I've had a lot of mentors, and that's the good news.
Yeah.
Some people have none.
Amen.
That's the real bad news. What does it take to be a mentor? Be someone that you want to emulate, someone you want to be like.